Hey, everybody, welcome back to Down the Shore Homestead. And if this is your first time here, thanks for coming down the shore. So, today I want to talk about how some people are dreading spending time with their family this holiday season. And I'm going to give you some ways to hopefully relieve that stress and, in the very least, give you some tools to cope. I feel like nobody's really talking about this, and it's something that I think is very important. I see everybody talking about the gifts, the menus, the new super cool games that you can play during your family gathering, like it's going to be a Hallmark movie moment. Well, guess what? For some, it's going to be more like the movie Four Christmases that came out years ago. And if you haven't seen it yet, you should probably see it because it's funny. And I'm not affiliated with the movie or anything. I'm going to put a little disclaimer in the description that I don't want YouTube to copyright this. However, it's a great, funny movie to watch. And I can relate to some of the things that happen in that movie. So, a lot of people just don't have, and I would actually say probably most people don't have Hallmark movie moments during their family gatherings. So, in today's video, I will break down the most common reasons that people get stressed out or have anxiety and give you ways to hopefully overcome the stress that it causes, or in the very least, help you cope with the issues that may come up. So, as we say around here, let's go down the shore. So there's about 9 different things that I found that people stress out about. So this video is probably going to be a little longer than normal. However, stay till the end because I have a lot of great ways that you can deal with all kinds of situations that may arise during that holiday gathering. So the first one is family dynamics. What I mean by family dynamics are unhappy memories or strained relationships and conflicting personalities, which can create tension and stress. So, in order to deal with those situations, what you're going to want to do is make sure you prioritize your self care and focus on happy memories and maybe your future goals, and set boundaries with those people who are causing you stress or those people where you have a conflicting personality with. If you set boundaries before the gathering, you're more apt to have a pleasant experience when you have to deal with them during that gathering. So make sure you try and talk to this person before the gathering and communicate openly about the expectations and concerns that you have for when you're together at the family gathering. So the next one is financial stress and the pressure to buy gifts, host meals, and participate in expensive activities can be very overwhelming for some people. So, talk to your family about creating new traditions that may be able to replace some of those expensive traditions that you normally do. For instance, if you just can't afford to purchase presents for everybody, and that's what your family normally does, have a conversation with your family before the gathering and talk about maybe doing a secret Santa or a Pollyanna, or just give up giving presents altogether and try and come up with ways of just creating family memories by playing different board games or these new games that people are talking about all over the place, and just try and enjoy each other's company instead of worrying about trying to impress each other with the expensive gifts that you got each other. Or try and talk to everybody and see if they will all decide to make things for each other instead. A homemade gift has more meaning than something that you can just go buy in the store. And try to be adaptive to situations. If somebody comes into your family gathering with a brand new cell phone and you're envious of them, if your cell phone is like 5 years old and you wish you could have a new one, don't focus on that. Just focus on the fact that that person is there for you to spend time with and enjoy. And if you're that person coming in with a brand new phone, don't brag about what you just got to everybody else who may not be able to afford what you just did. Try and be cognizant and try to be sympathetic to those who may not be doing as well as you, because a lot of people are struggling. And even if you are that person that's struggling, it gets depressing, but there are people that are way worse off than you. For instance, those people down in North Carolina and Tennessee who are still trying to deal with Hurricane Helene. Some of them are still living in tents in freezing temperatures and they're going hungry as well. So keep that in mind when you're complaining about someone in your family driving you crazy. The next one is expectations. Unrealistic expectations around family gatherings, traditions, and celebrations can lead to disappointment and stress. Remember, Hallmark movies are not real. Go into your family gatherings and remind yourself that it's not perfect and it most likely won't be. And try to go into it thinking how it might just end up being something funny that you guys will laugh about in the future. The next one I found is loss and grief. And this can be a really hard one to deal with. We've recently lost people in our family, and I know that it can be very, very difficult on that first holiday when that person is just no longer there. However, you have to try and maybe have a talk with all of your family members beforehand and come up with a plan for everybody to say something good that they remember about that person when you're at the gathering to make it a more happy situation instead of a sad situation. Try and remember the things that made you laugh about that person. Try and remember the things that that person did, maybe during holiday celebrations, that were just so funny that you all got a kick out of it. So, talk about that before the gathering. And then during the gathering, set aside some time for you all to give a statement about what you found funny about that person, or what made that, or how that person made you laugh during certain situations, or just things that they did. So, instead of focusing on the fact that they're not there, and try to remember the good times when they were there. Now, this next one can be a little difficult for some people. It's in laws and extended family. Dealing with the in laws and step siblings and other extended family members can be challenging and stressful, especially if there are differences in values, opinions, and lifestyles. So, in this day and age, with a lot of people having all kinds of different lifestyles and definitely a lot of different opinions, you have to get with your family members beforehand who you think you might have a disagreement with, or you feel stressed about them being around you because of some things that they've said in the past, or some things that you've said in the past, or just that you don't agree with their lifestyle. Try and put all of that aside for your family gathering and have a discussion before about things that will not be talked about when you are together during that gathering. Be respectful of each other, be adults. Even though I know right now it seems like nobody can have an opposite opinion without having it be a fight or a disagreement. I remember even 10 years ago, I could have an opposite opinion with somebody and we could just agree to disagree and move on with our day because we were two responsible adults. But for some reason, the pressures of society right now, basically, you have to be careful about what you say around everybody because everybody wants to get offended. And I think that's insane. People need to start putting on the grown up pants and start acting like adults and just sometimes agree to disagree. So have that conversation before you get to your gathering and try and talk about how you don't want to talk about specific things, or talk to them about how they may make you feel while you're at that gathering, and try and nip it in the butt before the gathering so that it doesn't come out during the gathering, and set boundaries with those people. And if for some reason someone talks about one of those topics or what you've discussed beforehand, tell them, maybe it's not just you, maybe it's a few of your family members that are having a problem with this person or the way that they talk to people. Talk to them. All of you need to talk to them before the gathering and set boundaries and say, these things will not be talked about. You will not be treating people this way. And if you agree, then you can come to the gathering. But if you don't agree, then please don't show up. And then if they do show up and they cause a scene or start something with somebody in the family, pull them aside nicely and ask them to leave if they won't stop doing what they're doing. There is nothing wrong with asking somebody who's causing problems during your family gathering to just leave. I know it can be hard, but your entire family shouldn't have a disruption of their family gathering and their good time enjoying each other's company because one person can't agree to get along with everybody. Another thing is traditions and rituals. And this can be a little hard sometimes to talk about as well, because you have your die-hard traditionalists that say we did this every year for 20 years and we have to continue because this is what, somebody wanted who may have passed away a few years ago, or it's just been in your family for generations. Instead, everybody needs to get together and vote on what traditions are going to stay in the family. And if somebody wants to start new traditions, what new traditions will replace those traditions that you want to stop doing? Or compromise right down the middle and say, okay, we'll continue to do this one, but maybe let's not do that one. And then let's add this one. So try and compromise with each other and find a happy middle ground on the traditions that you want to keep, and maybe add some new traditions for the ones that everybody just doesn't want to do anymore. For instance, I know that way back in the day, everybody used to get an orange in their stocking because oranges were very hard to come by, and it meant that people struggled, and you should be thankful when you got your orange or something like that. I don't remember exactly how it goes, but it's something like that. Well, nowadays it doesn't make sense to put an orange in your stocking because you probably got 10 more in your refrigerator. So I can see stopping that tradition. I know a lot of people replace that with like the chocolate oranges now, but even that, kids don't really want things like that in their stocking. And I get it. It's a new generation and things have changed, and we need to be adaptive to those changes and try and make the younger generation just as happy as we were when we were young, but maybe start some new traditions with something that would make them happy as well. Maybe instead of giving them candy, because kids have so many issues these days, it's not good to give them candy in their stockings. Maybe you give them things that will boost their imagination, because kids these days just don't have imagination or critical thinking skills. So maybe fill their stockings with crayons and art projects or things like that to help boost their imaginations and creativity. And we're getting pretty close to the end, so there's only a few more to go. And this is some good stuff, so stick around. The next one is time and schedule. And it can be very difficult to schedule the entire family to get together on one specific day. For instance, my family, my kids celebrate with us on Christmas Eve every year for the most part. Now, my son is in Hawaii, so obviously he's not coming in for Christmas Eve this year. And my stepdaughter lives a couple hours away. We're going to get our grandkids like a week before Christmas so that we can celebrate with them without interrupting my stepdaughter's plans with her mother and her fiance's family. And my son will just celebrate with his friends in Hawaii, and my daughter is actually going to come celebrate with us when we have our grandkids. So even our normal Christmas Eve this year is going to have to change because everybody's in different areas and everybody has different schedules. So try and find one day for everybody to get together in order for you to all be able to celebrate. It doesn't have to be on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. Like that movie I talked about in the beginning, those people had to go to 4 different houses in one day. That's crazy. That's too much traveling in one day to try and squeeze everybody's families in one day. That's just crazy. So try and spread it out between the different family members over the season so that you're not trying to do it all in one day. Now, the next one is food and cooking, and this might not be a big stressful thing for a lot of you, but if you think about it, if there's that one person, your mother, your grandmother, whoever, that makes that meal every single year, maybe you could say, hey, why don't you let me bring the mashed potatoes, or let me bring a pie, or let me bring an appetizer to help lighten the load of the one person who does the entire meal. And maybe they won't let you. It's at least worth asking if they want some help, or even making them take your dish because they get stressed out and they're overwhelmed, and you can see that written all over their face, but they still won't ask for help or accept help. Sometimes you just have to force people to take it. And don't force them if you can't cook and you made something that nobody's going to like. So I'm not saying do that. I'm saying if you're a great cook or a great baker and you feel like they are too stressed out and you can help them out, then please make them take your dish and lighten the load on them just a little bit. And maybe in the future, you guys could talk about rotating. This family gets Easter, this family gets Christmas, rotate out the holidays to help that one person that always seems to host. And if there's people that come to your gathering that have dietary restrictions, for instance, my daughter is a vegetarian and so is her boyfriend because when he eats meat, it gets sick. So he is a vegetarian. And she brings her own dishes to our gatherings because she doesn't mind bringing the dishes because it's only two of them to cook for. So, and I appreciate that she does bring her own meals with her. So, if there's somebody like that, ask them to bring their own meal. There's nothing wrong with asking them to bring something that only they can eat and everybody else can have everything else. We're down to the last two. The next one is social media pressure. And I definitely don't want you guys falling into this trap. Social media is no different than the Hallmark movies. It is fake. It's not real. People use filters. They set the scenes up before they even take the picture. I mean, for instance, this YouTube video. I'm standing in front of the Christmas tree because it's a Christmas themed video. So stand in front of the Christmas tree. This was set up. Well, it's no different than social media. People set up the scenes that they want to portray on social media. So stop comparing your family and your experiences with the people that are online because it's not real. This isn't real. I mean, my tree's real and my sweater's real, but this isn't what I looked like today. I was working all day. So remember, that's fake and you don't need to compare yourself to that. Make sure you realize that spending time with your family or your friends is more precious than what those people are doing. We all need to stop worrying about what other people are doing and just start worrying about ourselves. If you had a great time with your family and you didn't get to take any pictures, so what? You have them in your memories. Or if it was a fiasco because the stove stopped working and you guys couldn't finish cooking the ham or whatever you were making for dinner for your gathering, and you had to go get Chinese food or something, there's nothing wrong with that. It's something that you're probably going to laugh about in the future. So stop stressing about things that happened during your gathering or things that went wrong and they're not as precious as everybody's putting up on social media. Stop falling into that trap and just be happy that you were able to spend time with your family or your friends or both. If you did that, that's awesome. And just be thankful that you had that experience because a lot of people don't even have that experience. If you look at some of the places that are open on Christmas Day, you'll be surprised how many people are by themselves at a diner or a restaurant because they have nobody. And to me, that's sad. So we all need to be thankful. And the last one is personal relationships. And there can be a lot of underlying issues that nobody really talks about or that couple doesn't talk about during the holiday season because they don't want to cause any scenes or cause issues during holiday season. You really need to talk to that person about any underlying issues that you may have. And that is because a lot of people assume when something doesn't feel right or isn't right. And maybe you just need to have a conversation with that person and say, hey, I feel like whenever you're around me, you criticize me because of where I work, or something like that. Be out in the open with them and say, and say those things. And maybe they'll say, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize I was doing that. That's not what I meant. What I meant was that you have the talent and the knowledge to improve the way that you live. And I just want to see you do better. You know what I mean? Sometimes you're taking it as a negative and they're trying to give it to you as a positive, and your lines have gotten crossed, and you really just need to sit down and talk about it. So have that discussion with those people and or anybody and say, this is my perception. Is it true? And if it's not true, maybe they can give you the reason why it's not true. Or if it is true, maybe you just need to have a conversation about, again, boundaries and say, well, I don't appreciate it. So please don't do that. when we're at family gatherings. Maybe you need to talk to them and stop assuming that the things are the way that they are. And don't keep things bottled up. Get them out, because a lot of people assume a lot of things. And if you just talk to people, you'll be surprised that you're probably just assuming wrong. So Rocco has been patiently waiting on the couch over here while I was making this video. You got pooped out because we played outside today, huh? Yeah, we played some launcher ball, didn't we, bud? Say hey, everybody. I hope you enjoyed coming down the shore. Hopefully, you'll come down to the shore on the next video. So, like Rocco said, hopefully, we'll see you come down the shore for the next video. And I'm going to put a link up here to a playlist of home remedies backed by science, because my next video is going to go into that playlist, and it's going to be all about how to help you out when you have a sore throat. See you next time.